back to another video on my channel. Today's video is not one that I actually initially planned on doing today, but I came across this specific topic on TikTok, which for those of you who keep asking if I have it, I do, but I've never uploaded and I don't plan on ever uploading on there ever. I just like to scroll through like the creepy video section, I guess, of it. But I found this topic on TikTok and I had no intention of talking about it today, but once I started to do a little bit of research on my own looking into this specific topic, I thought that it was super interesting and I thought that you guys would enjoy hearing about this as well. So I don't really know how long today's video is going to be. If it is on the shorter side, I will say that next week I am aiming for a 20 to 30 minute long video, just because my last few uploads have been pretty short. But with that all being said, let's get right into today's video. What we will be discussing today is known as the John Lawson house. This house is located at 9A Main Street, New Hamburg, Wapping Falls, New York. Now at this point with us just starting this video, you're probably assuming that this is going to be just your average haunted house. Not that haunted houses aren't scary and absolutely terrifying, but this specific topic is not average and it is extremely creepy. To me personally, I think that this is even creepier than any other haunted house story, and it does just leave you feeling really unsettled because there are so many unanswered questions in this specific case. This case is so unique and unlike anything I have ever heard of before. What's particularly strange about this house is not one single human soul has ever been spotted on the property. Nobody has any idea who owns this house, who previously owned this house. The history is up in the air, and nobody is sure about who's lived there, who lives there, if anybody even lives there currently. This house could very well be abandoned. However, there are some specific aspects about this house that suggest otherwise. Now, like I just mentioned, not a single human soul has ever been on the property of the John Lawson house, or at least they haven't been spotted on the property. Nobody else has ever reported seeing anybody on this property, owning this property, living in the house, anything like that. But what is frequently seen all around this property are several different mannequins. These mannequins are usually always set up on the front porch, and they seem to move around by their own accord, meaning that they move positions almost on a daily basis. Now, to me, that is just absolutely so terrifying. I have mentioned this in a previous video. I'm not really sure what it is, but haunted mannequins, dolls, things that should be small but are big, like a mannequin because it's like a giant doll, those kinds of things really creep me out. So this specific topic is super unsettling to me. To be completely honest, I'm not really sure why this specific house and this topic has not gotten more attention. I just came across it again quickly on TikTok the other day, and besides that, I have never heard of this case anywhere, and that really surprised me because I just think that this is so absolutely mind-bogglingly strange. I cannot wrap my head around this one, but anyways, not only do these mannequins move around on the front porch and change positions, but they also change their outfits almost again on a daily basis. The clothing that these mannequins are usually seen in does come from the 20th century, and again, they move around the porch all of the time. The number of mannequins placed on the porch, their outfits, what they're doing, their positions, the direction they're facing, all of that kind of stuff, again, seems to change almost daily, whether there are people there to see it or not. Now, this may seem obvious, but what exactly is going on here is completely unknown. Nobody has ever come forward saying that they know specifically what is going on with these mannequins at the John Lawson house. However, there are definitely some theories. Some people theorize that the mannequins are set up there to set across some kind of message or riddle, but what exactly that message or riddle is, again, remains completely unknown. But other people believe that these mannequins could be set up to kind of, I guess, lean towards local tragedies that happened around that specific house. And we are going to talk about some of those tragedies today. This horrible tragedy took place in 1871 during a 2-week cold wave in New York when a train crashed. This train accident was absolutely horrible. It took place only 200 feet away from the John Lawson house and resulted in 22 people losing their lives. Many people who are aware of this tragedy and have gone and visited the John Lawson house say that many times the mannequins are all set up in a position so that they are facing the exact area where this tragedy had taken place. But on other days, the mannequins are set up in a different position where they are facing the only other historical home on that street that is still standing today. This other historical home that we are talking about was built in 1845, and it was the only home, or one of the only homes, besides the John Lawson house, to remain standing in that area. All of the other buildings that were built in that time had sadly burned to the ground during a massive fire that had taken place in that little specific area, burning down all of the houses and buildings around the John Lawson house, besides that other historical home that is still standing there today. I want to kind of take a step back here and go back to the mannequins because I feel like I didn't give them enough attention at the beginning of the video, so I do just want to talk about a few more things about them specifically before getting into the other stuff. So it is said that allegedly the mannequins are no longer there today. They are no longer seen sitting on the front porch. But when they were often seen sitting there with other objects accompanying them. Sometimes they had cups that were overflowing with potpourri, sometimes they had books, sometimes they had towels, in other cases they had empty bird cages. Just all of these really strange things were always sitting with the mannequins on the front porch of the John Lawson house. It was said that while these mannequins were still at the John Lawson house, and when they were seen again almost on a daily basis sitting on the front porch, that the mannequins would just disappear after the sun went down. It appeared that they were there all day, and then by the time that the sun started to set, the mannequins would just disappear, again without any trace of anybody moving them off the porch or anything like that. They just completely vanished. It has also been stated that the only time that the mannequins weren't seen on the front porch of the John Lawson house was every now and then on a rainy day. The mannequins would not make an appearance at all. Now let's talk a little bit about the house itself. So the John Lawson house was speculated to have been built sometime in the 1800s. It does seem that with some kind of stroke of luck, the John Lawson house survived a lot of these tragedies, especially that fire that we just really briefly talked about. It seems that that was almost a miracle that the house would still be standing after such a tragedy had taken place, especially considering all of the other buildings completely burned down on that street and in that area besides one other house. Now, another thing that I did try and look into because I personally was interested in was who exactly John Lawson is. However, the name is extremely generic and I couldn't narrow it down to one single person because there are so many people with that name. However, I am just going to assume here that that is the person who first built this house and that he probably doesn't have any hand whatsoever in the mannequins and the things that are going on in that house more recently today. The John Lawson house is also located right across from the Hudson River, and on February 6th, 1971 is when that train accident happened. When the train derailed due to a broken axle, this was the accident that resulted in the death of 22 people, and then in 1877, the fire happened that burned down pretty much all of the houses and buildings surrounding the John Lawson house. So as you can see, a lot of tragedy and death have happened surrounding this specific house, and many people do believe that the mannequins are some kind of message about those tragedies. Like I mentioned briefly, there was some specific objects that were placed on the porch with these mannequins. And one of these objects gave me the creeps personally when I was reading about it, and I was reading somebody's write-up about it, and this creeped them out too. So I did just want to mention it here. When the mannequins were all set up on the front porch of the John Lawson house, somebody had gotten a good look at what was sitting on the mannequins' laps, and one of the mannequins had a book on her lap, and this book was titled Pregnancy and Infant Hair Care, which I just think is really unsettling. I'm not really sure why that's so creepy, but it does just leave you with this weird feeling in your gut when you think that all of these mannequins are being placed on the porch without explanation, and many people do believe there's a message within here. So the fact that that book specifically was placed on one of the mannequins' laps is very, very creepy, I'm gonna say. Like I already said, the mannequins are no longer at the John Lawson house. They haven't been seen there, but when exactly they stopped appearing wasn't something that I could personally find online, so if you do have that information, feel free to leave it in the comments, but it just wasn't something that I could come across. But again, when the mannequins were there, it did appear that every single night, just as the sun went down, the mannequins completely vanished off of the front porch, and where they went is unknown. Now, even though it was nighttime, that didn't stop people from driving by the John Lawson house, and those who lived on the street and whatever said that there were always very dark drapes pulled over the windows of the home so you could never see what the interior of the house looked like. However, at night, once the mannequins were taken off the porch, we assumed that they went inside of the house, you could always see a dim light coming from within the home, suggesting that somebody was actually in there. That specific tidbit of information is what really got my mind going about this house and really made me wonder who owned the John Lawson home. It does really stump me that there was probably a lot of local tourists and whatnot coming to see this house, and the fact that nobody, not one single person, has ever seen another human being setting up these mannequins or taking them inside or just on the property, you know, through a window or something like that, just absolutely blows my mind. Because how can you set this up so strategically and never be seen ever? Now, I may be really overthinking this here, but it does say that the mannequins appeared day after day after day on that front porch for years. And that would suggest to me that the same person lived inside, or at least owned, the John Lawson house and was doing this day after day after day after day. And without getting caught, it would seem to me that they would never be able to have visitors or anything like that, because I do think that if they did, we would have a little bit more information on what exactly was going on within this house and with the person who was setting the mannequins up every single day. So there are a few theories about what exactly is going on with these mannequins and why they were placed there day after day for years. Again, like I already mentioned, some people believe that these mannequins were set there as some kind of message or riddle that still has not been discovered to this day. Another theory that I saw on the internet is that this is some kind of art project. Now, what exactly the point behind this art project would be is, again, completely unknown, but that doesn't rule it out as a theory. Other people believe that the mannequins are inhabited by some of the spirits that passed away due to the tragedy that surrounds the John Lawson house. That would explain why nobody was ever seen setting the mannequins up on the front porch of the home, why nobody ever seen them taking them off the porch of the front home, and why nobody had ever seen anybody at this house in general, period. Because nobody was doing this. The mannequins were haunted by these spirits, and they were doing it by their own accord without the help of anybody. And another theory that I didn't really see online or come across too often, but is one that I personally think cannot be ruled out as a possibility, is that the person who lived in the John Lawson house at that time was maybe, I'm gonna use crazy for lack of a better word. Maybe the person thought that these mannequins were real, and that's why they were dressing them up and setting them up in that manner on the front porch every single day. Maybe that's why they were bringing them inside at night. Maybe this person just wasn't all there and they had some kind of mental issues that were causing them to think that the mannequins needed to be taken care of. And that is why the person would have never had visitors. Nobody would have ever seen the person. Maybe they were a hermit and they didn't want to be seen or something along those lines. And maybe the reason that the mannequins are no longer seen at this house today is because maybe that person moved away or passed away or something along those lines has happened. Now, I'm not saying that I 100% believe this theory, but I don't think that it can be ruled out as a possibility. I do, however, believe that this topic and this house and the entire aspect of all of this is extremely creepy. I think that even if it came out that whatever was going on at the John Lawson house was the most unsinister thing that has ever taken place, I do think that it still has this really creepy, unsettling feel to it. I don't know what the point in setting these mannequins up and never seeing a person on the property or anything like that would have to be if it was not sinister, if it was not trying to creep people out. I do think that this is extremely unsettling, and the lack of answers in this case just gets my brain going and drives me absolutely nuts. And that is why, while I was reading about it, I thought that even if there wasn't too much information about this specific topic, I did think that you guys would find it interesting, and I really wanted to share it with you even if the video would be short. I'd really like to know what you guys think was going on within this house. My mind is just completely stumped. I don't even know if I believe any of the theories. There might be something else out there that I just haven't thought of. So I'd really like to know what you guys think about this specific case, because it is just so creepy and so confusing. But guys, that brings us to the end of today's video. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.